They say New York never sleeps. But for Riley Thompson, it wasn't the noise or neon that kept her up at night. It was something deeper, something quieter, something that clawed at the edges of her soul. She lived on the 6th floor of an aging Harlem walk-up, the kind of building with creaky steps, rusted railings, and windows that never quite shut out the winter wind. Riley had once been a rising star in the world of theatrical lighting. Her designs lit up Broadway stages, turning actors into gods, turning scenes into emotional landscapes. She could orchestrate light like music, subtle, powerful, unforgettable. But now her apartment was dim. It had been 2 years since the fire, 2 years since that late-night rehearsal, the faulty wiring, the flash of heat, the choking smoke. 2 years since her brother, Nate, younger, vibrant, always laughing, died trying to help her save the rig. She survived. He didn't, and she'd never forgiven herself. Since then, Riley had drifted. No theater, no contact with her old crew. Most days, she barely left the apartment. The light board gathered dust, her inbox filled with unread messages. The city moved on like it always did, fast, unforgiving. People walked past her like she was invisible. Until the bird. It was a bitter February night. Slush filled the streets, and the wind howled like it was alive. Riley had climbed to the rooftop, needing to breathe something other than the stale air of regret. Not for inspiration, not for peace, just a cigarette and a moment of stillness. That's when she saw the shape. Curled in the far corner of the rooftop, behind a rusted air vent and a broken chair, was a bundle of shadow. At first she thought it was trash, a blackened tarp or forgotten laundry. But then something moved, a twitch, a tremble, and then an eye. A single, half-closed eye shimmered in the spill of orange light from a nearby window. Watching, barely alive, but still defiant. Riley stepped closer. Her boots crunched against icy gravel. The shape stirred. A sharp head lifted slightly. A bird. Not a pigeon. Not even a hawk. Peregrine falcon. Its wings were folded at broken angles. Feathers singed and wet with snow. One talon crusted in blood. A tiny metal band glinted around one of its legs. A tracking tag. He'd been hurt. Badly. Maybe he'd collided with a wire. Or been caught in a storm. Or worse, someone had done this to him. But what struck Riley most wasn't the injury. It was the silence. No screech. No panic. Just that eye. That quiet resistance. She knelt beside him. Her coat flapped in the wind. She spoke softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." No flinch. No cry. Carefully, she wrapped him in her coat. He didn't resist. He weighed almost nothing. Just bones and feathers. But he was warm. Barely. She brought him inside. Cleared off her old drafting table and made space. Lined a basket with an old hoodie. Googled feverishly, Peregrine Falcon Rescue NYC. Falcon First Aid. How to treat bird wing injury. She left a message for a wildlife rehab center. No answer. That night, she stayed up beside him. She named him Ash. Because of his color. Because of his silence. Because that's what she felt like. Burnt, drifting, waiting to scatter. Over the next few days, everything changed. She learned how to clean wounds. How to mix saline. How to wrap feathers with gentle hands. She ordered frozen quail from a supplier in Jersey. Turned her fridge into a bird pantry. Watched hours of YouTube tutorials from falconers and rescue volunteers. Ash watched her too. Not like a pet. Not like a child. But like something ancient. Wild. Sharp. He didn't trust her, not yet. But he didn't leave. And she started talking. Not deep conversations. Just words. Words that had been stuck in her throat for months. She told him about Nate. About the fire. About the dreams she didn't tell anyone else. About the guilt that had buried her light. Ash listened. Or maybe he didn't. But he never turned away. One night, while checking his bandage, She whispered, "You know, my brother used to draw birds. He said falcons were the fastest things alive. Ninjas of the sky." Ash blinked. Just once. And Riley laughed. The sound startled her. The next day he hopped. Just a short burst. Off the broomstick perch she'd made from duct tape and a mop handle. A flap. A stumble. Nothing graceful. But it was everything. She cried that night. Quiet tears. Not from grief. From relief. From movement. A week later, the Wildlife Center finally called back. They had space. They had specialists. They could take Ash. Riley hesitated. She told them she'd think about it. Because by then, he wasn't just a rescue project. He was the first living thing she'd cared for in years. The first reason she had to wake up in the morning. Before we continue the story further, take a second to subscribe to Chronicles of Wild. Like the video and comment below where in the world you're watching from and what time it is. Let's see how far this story flies. Now, back to the rooftop. By week 2, Ash began responding more. He watched the light shift through the windows, tracked Riley with his good eye. She bought a collapsible mesh tent so he could stretch his wings safely. His strength returned slowly, but steadily. So did hers. She started opening her blinds again, letting sunlight in. She started sketching. Not designs for shows, just shapes, light, wing patterns. She found one of Nate's old sketchbooks, buried in a drawer, pages of hawks and falcons. She framed one. Sometimes, she stood by the window with Ash on her gloved forearm, letting him feel the breeze through the screen. And she'd whisper, "Not yet, but soon," because she knew. One day he'd leave. He had to. Wild things don't stay caged, even if the cage is made of kindness. But until then, they had each other. Because sometimes, when a heart has shattered into too many pieces to count, the only way back is through something else. Something smaller. Something helpless. Something worth saving. And in the act of saving it, you begin to save yourself. Ash never spoke, never sang. But every flick of his wing, every blink of that battle-hardened eye, was enough. And for the first time in 2 long, gray years, the silence didn't hurt. Ash was healing, slowly but surely. His feathers had begun to grow back in patches, glossy and sharp-edged where they had once been singed. The bruising on his wing had faded to yellow, and though his left claw still curled strangely, he had started to grip the edge of the chair rail like it belonged to him. Riley could feel the shift too. It wasn't just that her apartment looked different, less like a forgotten cave and more like a living space. It was the way she moved through it. She opened windows again. She checked the light through the blinds not to shut it out, but to let it in. Every morning, Ash greeted her with the slow, deliberate tilt of his head, watching, measuring, trusting not like a pet, but like an equal. She'd begun keeping a journal. It wasn't anything fancy, just scraps of thought, scribbled words, sketches, moments. She logged Ash's weight and how far his wings opened that day. But mixed in were things she didn't expect. Dreams she'd stopped having. Ideas for stage shows. Memories of Nate. One entry read, "Ash tried flapping today. Knocked over the water bowl. I didn't even mind mopping it up. I think I smiled." It wasn't until her building super, Mr. Delgado, knocked on the door one morning that she remembered. The world still spun outside her walls. "You got a hawk in there?" he asked, brow raised. "Falcon," she corrected automatically, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Rescue." He just nodded, a hint of a smile tugging the corner of his mouth. "Looks like he's rescuing you too." That night, she stood at the window with Ash perched nearby. Snow flurries drifted past fire escapes like confetti. "I think I want to work again," she whispered. Ash didn't respond. He didn't need to. Before we go further, if you've come this far, take a second to subscribe to Chronicles of Wild. Like the video, And drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Let's see how far Ash's story can fly. Now, back to the story. By mid-March, Ash had begun hopping between perches, the window ledge, the top of the fridge, even the shower rod once. That one startled them both. Riley constructed a flight tent in her living room using PVC pipes and mesh netting. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. Inside, Ash began testing his wings. Short bursts, controlled glides. A single beat of his wings could lift him half a foot off the ground now. But with progress came a question Riley hadn't wanted to face. What happens when he's ready to leave? She called the rehab center again. They were thrilled to hear of his recovery. They could begin release training soon. Transfer protocols, falconry assessments, all standard. She thanked them, hung up, and stared at Ash for a long time that evening, her fingers tracing the edge of his tracking band. "I'm not holding you back, am I?" she asked softly. I don't know if I'm ready." Ash blinked, then turned toward the window. Freedom. It was what he was made for. But the city wasn't kind to the weak. Not to birds, not to people. And Riley had begun to fear what she'd be without him. He wasn't just part of her day. He was part of her reason. That weekend, she made a choice. Instead of preparing to let go, she started preparing to give him flight. She reached out to an urban falconer, someone who trained birds of prey in city environments. She watched videos, studied diagrams. She learned how falcons hunted in the concrete jungle. Dive speeds, nesting strategies, sky thermals between skyscrapers. It became her new stage lighting. She built glove pads out of old leather, crafted training lures with feathers. She ordered a portable GPS tag, and every step she took for Ash brought her back into the world. One Saturday, she carried him to the roof in a reinforced travel crate. The same place they'd met, now dusted in spring light. When she opened the door, he didn't hesitate. He stepped out, stretched his wings, and flew. Not far, just one lap around the roof. But it was flight. Riley covered her mouth, breath caught in her throat. She didn't cry. She laughed. A full, aching, glorious laugh. Ash circled back and landed beside her. Clumsily, but proudly. That evening, she opened her journal and wrote just 4 words. He remembered the sky. 2 days later, life reminded her of its teeth. She was walking home from the deli when she noticed flashing lights outside her building. Ambulance. Fire truck. No smoke, but tension in the air like a string pulled tight. She sprinted up the stairs. The smell of something scorched hit her first. Then the sight of the EMTs clustered in the hallway. Mr. Delgado had collapsed. Heart attack. They said he'd called for help himself before passing out. But the weird part? His phone wasn't in his pocket. It was on the stairs. "I found it next to the door," one medic said. Weird, right? It had blood on it, like it was dropped. Later, Riley would replay what the neighbor's kid told her. "The big bird was screeching, Miss Riley, like crazy. I saw him flapping at your window. Then I saw the super on the floor." Riley rushed into her apartment. Ash was in the corner, calm now, perched, watching, but on the floor beneath the fire escape window. His talons had left small, smeared marks, scratches, red drops, as if he had clawed his way to alert someone, saved someone, again. In the days that followed, Riley couldn't stop thinking about it. Ash had seen something she didn't, had acted, had screamed until someone noticed. It was instinct, but more than that, it was connection. He had saved her before, from herself, from silence. Now he had saved another, and in doing so, he had given Riley something more than just healing. He had given her a mission, a second act. The journal became a blog. The blog turned into a video series. Urban Wings. Stories from the skies of the city. Riley filmed Ash's progress, shared recovery tips, told the truth about what it meant to care and be cared for. Emails poured in. My daughter watched your story and cried. Thank you. I had a rescue once too. You gave me hope. One even read. My brother was a falconer. He died last year. Watching Ash brought him back for a second. And just like that, Riley wasn't invisible anymore. She was a light again. Not on stage but in hearts. And Ash? Ash began flying further. 1 block, then 2. Eventually he returned less and less. But always, he returned. Until one day he didn't. And that was when Riley truly knew. He was never meant to stay. He was meant to remind her to live. To remember what it feels like to fly. They say you never forget your first flight. Or the one who taught you how to take it. Ash didn't come back that night. Or the next. Riley waited. She checked the skies every morning. The rooftops. The ledges. At first, she told herself he was hunting. Exploring. Testing his limits. But deep down, she knew. He was gone. Not lost. Not hurt. Free. The thought hurt in a way she hadn't expected. Not sharp but deep. Like the echo of a bell long after it stops ringing. But with the ache came peace. Ash had done what he was meant to do. Not just recover. Not just return to the sky. He had revived something in her. Something long buried. A sense of wonder. Of responsibility. Of purpose. And Riley wasn't going to let it fade. Before we close this chapter, don't forget to subscribe to Chronicles of Wild. Hit like if this story stirred something in you. And tell us below, have you ever been saved by an animal in your life? We'd love to read your story. Now let's finish this together. Weeks passed. Riley started working again. Not in the same way. She didn't go back to Broadway. That part of her life felt like a closed door now. And that was okay. Instead, she started volunteering with the same wildlife rehab center that had once offered to take Ash in. They welcomed her with open arms and wide eyes when they realized she already knew how to splint a falcon's wing. She told them Ash's story, but more importantly, she listened to theirs. Other birds came and went. Kestrels, owls, even a red-tailed hawk that tried to bite her glove off on day one. Each had its own wounds, its own fight. She started documenting them. Not just the recoveries, but the little things. The way a bird flutters its feathers when it's content. How silence can feel like trust. How presence, just being there, is its own form of love. Urban Wings became more than a blog. It became a community. A quiet corner of the internet where people shared their scars and their survival stories, animal and human alike. One message stood out. A teenage girl from Chicago wrote, "I've been dealing with anxiety. I barely leave my room. But watching your story, I went outside for the first time in weeks. I watched the pigeons. I think I want to help something too." Riley cried when she read that. Not the broken kind of tears. Not the kind that come from grief. But the kind that come from growth. Ash had taken flight. And now so had she. A year later, on a spring morning sharp with light and smell of thawed concrete, Riley climbed the same rooftop where it all began. In her hand was a small, framed photo. One she'd taken just days before Ash had disappeared. He'd been perched on the railing, city skyline behind him, one wing half lifted like he was ready to leap. She placed the photo on the ledge, beside a small plaque she had made. It read, "Wings of the Fallen, for Ash, who reminded me how to rise." And then, for a long while she just stood there, listening to the wind, watching the sky. A shadow passed overhead. A bird. She couldn't tell what kind. It was too fast, too high, but she smiled anyway, because it didn't matter. She knew, somewhere out there, Ash was flying, and so was she. Music swells. Hope, light, wind chimes.